Ergo Proxy, a 2006 23 episode anime I originally dropped and now love. The story follows a trio of characters. First up, Riel Mayer, granddaughter to the ruler of Romdeau, a domed city which exists within the wastes of a ruined planet Earth. Here, humans are accompanied by AutoReiv, mechanical beings which exist to serve every need of their human companions. However, that begins to change with the worsening outbreak of the Cogito Virus, which bestows these mechanical beings with the ability to act of their own free will. That is to say, it gives them a soul. Paired with this chaos is the escape of the city's darkest secret, a monster whose rampage draws out another just like it, setting the city on a crash course it may not be able to recover from in its complacent state. One immigrant caught up in all this madness, Vincent Law, serves as another lead. On his path to becoming a true fellow citizen, he begins to find Romdeau's harsh realities, leading to his own quest of self-discovery and survival, accompanied by Pino, a self-aware AutoReiv whose journey is one not of the past, but the future. How will a being who just found sentience react to becoming human? Together, these three take a journey of discovery across the ruined abyss of Earth, encountering new friends and foes alike, all while the deep mystery they left in Romdeau seems to spill out into the world around them. You can probably see why the anime often pops up as a comparison to Psychopaths. It's likewise cyberpunk, but a bit more dark and muted. It deals with similar ideas like a future dystopian society evolved from our own destroyed world, explored by an investigator set out to uncover a great discovery. It's quite philosophical as well, with its share of direct references much like Shogo Makishima and Shinya Kogami would have. However, it doesn't feature a comparable rivalry. Ergo Proxy is also a bit heavier on philosophy. The story itself feels like a partner to the ideas and concepts it explores rather than the master of them. A few episodes are more like exploratory rants than dedicated sections of a plot. However, I believe all of these episodes are still engaging and in line with the story. They don't simply narrate concepts to you, but explore the psychology of the characters and the philosophy of the world in ways which are backed by previous episodes. However, I do agree with the criticism that it may be too reliant on philosophy, so you'll have to be quite a fan of it to make it through. And now, a series reliant on these ideas needs to add a good spin to them, and that's where Ergo Proxy makes it all work. The abstract and surreal rants feel worthwhile because the anime isn't just repeating old things, but adding on to them. It covers creation fighting creator, but with the most satisfying twist I've ever seen on that concept incorporated into one of its greatest reveals. There's also a lot on the soul, from those born with them to those who gain them, offering an analysis of both dealing with being human and becoming it as well. Vincent is a deep arc within that idea, exploring a coming to terms with oneself, their creator, and even their creation. I think his arc is like a darker version of Vash's from Trigun. They each serve as unwilling bringers of destruction who are forced to stop running from that nature. Liking Trigun doesn't mean you'll like Ergo Proxy by any means, but if you like Vash for that arc, then you might. Naturally, when the soul is involved as well and people ask why, you have to introduce the idea of a reason for being, how it affects us, and if it's something we need, a topic we'll actually be covering later this week. And how do you tie this all together? Well, naturally with the society it all exists in, its survival or fall, from which we can gather a deep message about how they lived and what it was worth. With that, as well as the manipulation of the human race, I think fans of From the New World could find something here as well. If the phrase "the sins of the human race" does anything for you like it did there, then this is probably another anime for you. And there's even more I could say thematically, but that's just an overview of some of the greatest things of what it explores. For a bit of the technical aspects, I'd say that the anime certainly has some action, but in no way is action focused. Not every episode will have a fight if that's what you're looking for. Being from 2006, it's limited compared to what we're used to now, but it still looks perfectly fine, and that's also how I describe its worst moments. Its lowest bar is average, and spends most of its time above that mark. The animation is creative in what's being shown, how it pairs the ideas and characters, more so than being very dynamic or grand. The soundtrack is fitting for the world, with nothing groundbreaking, but a few emotionally standout tracks. My favorites are Bilbil and He the Empty. I watched the dub, which as anime goes is mostly voices you'll recognize from the Knots era. There's a few episodes which required some goofier lines, and obviously a few which needed more dramatic ones, and the cast hit both ends well. I think Vincent, Major Knight, and Iggy both had some scenes that will stick with you performance-wise. Now, the last technical thing I want to cover is the pacing. The first third of the anime is exceptional. Everything flowed together just as it seemed more was needed, but that does fall apart a bit in the later thirds, with a few moments where things just happened, but it does follow a journey across multiple places, so it's technically explained in that way, and the final few episodes do pull it back together, but there are some episodes that really feel like they should have been further from the climax. Now, one big thing to cover is how surreal the anime can be. Much like Serial Experiments Lain is full of such moments in what you could almost describe as psychology given physicality, leading to a few sections that are hard to follow in terms of plot. I think this is the most important comparison we'll make because you really have to be able to handle some odd moments. With a longer runtime, I think it's a few steps below Lain in terms of seemingly random oddity though. There's more space between such moments, and so more backing to them as well. With that in mind, I can confidently say it creates some of the most engaging surreal moments that I've ever seen. With a few episodes, I took 2 watches, one to simply enjoy what was happening and then another to take notes. It's things like a character's mind and past being given physicality and shown to them, or having their emotions taken out and forced upon them in full. It's one of the only times I've enjoyed scenes being replayed for effect, always with adjustments to highlight what's important. There's also a few episodes which are simply so creative in other ways, the series might be worth watching just for them. Just to give some hints, there's an entire episode that's framed as a game show with very minimal breaks in that presentation, which also has Common as voice actor, and another which is basically a corrupted Walt Disney promotion. They may not be perfectly incorporated into the whole, but they're fun and entertaining ideas that get across important points. The creativity is there for a reason. Now, to be fair, sometimes it is too creative for its own good, where most series are way too heavy on the tell and not enough on the show. Ergo Proxy may be one of the few series which could do with a little more directness. There's very few scenes which are clear about the point they're trying to make, instead dropping hints and relying on the viewer to ponder what they saw and put the pieces together at almost all times. While this is a rewarding experience, it means the series isn't great for a simple or relaxing watch, and a few of the episodes and scenes will make more sense after information is revealed later to little fanfare, meaning you really have to keep everything in mind. It won't point out seeming contradictions to you, but at the end of the day, all of this can be pretty easily remedied with a quick explainer post that covers the specifics of the plot in direct detail. I'll link to one of those below. Many fans will probably say the series needs a few watches to understand it and that is a mark of quality. I disagree. I feel a perfect series should be understandable on its first watch, but I only think Ergo Proxy is just over that line. I went back to a few scenes I struggled with after finishing, and everything made enough sense. One of the few final notes I have is on the mood of the series. As we said, its setting is quite dark and muted, and paired with that, the series is very dramatic about itself. I wouldn't consider it pointless melodrama, but it certainly has some moments where aggressive pain and suffering are front and center. I think what saves it all, though, is that this is happening for reasons I believe. I think the example of how this can be done wrong is Requiem for the Phantom. It has an intro that really speeds through the development of its protagonist Reiji into an unfeeling monster, leading to scenes that feel very undeserved and thus melodramatic. Ergo Proxy manages to avoid that feeling, sitting in this perfect zone where, yes, everything is dark and awful and painful and dramatic, but I love it. I think it's fitting and deserved and serves to further the themes the anime is presenting. Like with the creative episodes, it's there for a reason. It serves a purpose other than simply being dramatic. So that might be the best way to put it. If you like a depressing series with a twinge of hope that you can really ponder and learn something from, this is for you. You just have to stick with it. I originally dropped this series as a jumble of pointless nonsense, only to try it again years later and now absolutely love it.